Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another episode of the Jayden Bryce Show, the show where we talk about the hottest topics in sports. We had a phenomenal game last night, super entertaining. Everybody was advertising it as pretty much the Unk Bowl. You had Joe Flacco, old as dirt, and then you had Aaron Rodgers, old as dirt, and they were both duking it out, and it turned out to be a pretty entertaining game, and the Bengals offense was the shock of the night, led by Joe Flacco and Ja'Marr Chase. We're going to get into that. Then we're going to discuss some Eagles talk going into their matchup this weekend versus the Minnesota Vikings. Is that offense going to get back on track? I have some comments about that. Then we're going to discuss my Dallas Cowboys and, how are they going to do? Are they going to bounce back off of a horrible, horrible loss against the Carolina Panthers this past weekend? I'll discuss that. And then I'm going to end today's show off. I forgot to do it last week. Don't know why. Forgive me for that, but I am going to be giving you my picks of the week for week 7. Obviously, I don't never do Thursday night's game for the most part unless it's the Dallas Cowboys, and we're going to get into that. But before we get into all of that, let's just finish the housekeeping. I want to thank you for continuing to watch the show. Do not hesitate to hit the like button and subscribe to my YouTube channel and share the podcast on all your platforms. And check out my podcast, on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and get into today's topics. And we're just going to start off with the action from last night's game on Thursday Night Football. The Unk Bowl. The Bengals go on to dominate the Pittsburgh Steelers. Well, you could say dominate. I had it in the lower third, but it was a relatively close game, and they end up getting the victory 33-31 with a game-winning field goal from Evan McPherson. Let's answer one question at a time, but I have two. Are the Steelers good? My answer to that, from watching this game, and I've kept track of the Steelers somewhat, I think, me personally, and this is just me, of course, I'm giving my 2 cents on this. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers are a pretty average football team. Pretty average. Because of a couple of things. I do not like what I'm seeing from this defense. We're talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers. We're talking about the Steel Curtain. Troy Polamalu, James Harrison, Mel Blount, Mean Joe Green, Ryan Shazier. The list of names go on and on and on from the historic defenses that the Steelers have had for well above the past 30, 40 years. But so far this season, this Steelers defense looks absolutely unrecognizable. Yesterday, TJ Watt was pretty much a relative no-show. Going towards the final quarter yesterday in the fourth, Amazon's production studio pretty much showed off that JJ Watt only had one pressure the whole game. And then, of course, JJ Watt proceeds to get a sack. They spoke into existence. He got a sack like 2 or 3 plays after that. But for most of the night, JJ Watt was relatively a no-show. And do not get me started with the defensive backs. Ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about a Ja'Marr Chase. This is a secondary led by Darius Slay, Joey Porter Jr., and future Hall of Famer Jalen Ramsey. And maybe Darius Slay has the argument for being a future Hall of Famer as well. Ladies and gentlemen, do you guys know that Ja'Marr Chase had 161 yards yesterday? He had 16 receptions, and he had 23 targets. They threw the ball to him 23 times. And granted, a couple of these receptions weren't counted because they were incomplete passes, but I counted from the top of my head. I think relatively, Ja'Marr Chase could have had like 19 catches on 23 targets. Ja'Marr Chase was doing whatever, and I mean whatever he wanted to do yesterday to the Pittsburgh Steelers defense. It didn't matter if it was and I can't remember who. I think it was Shannon Sharp who posted this. He was giving it to Jalen Ramsey in the first half, and pretty much Darius Slay was like, let me rephrase it like this. So say this is Jamar Chase speaking. I am Jamar Chase, and this is me speaking as Jamar Chase. You know what, Jalen Ramsey, I got you this game. I give you some in the first half. Oh, you want to try Darius Slay? Oh, I got him in the second half. Done him in, and second half as well. Joey Porter Jr. He was absolutely unguardable last night. It is absolutely phenomenal that all the questions have been going around about, paying Jamar Chase that kind of money because, CeeDee's your second highest paid wide receiver at $34 million, and Jamar Chase got $40 million. And so far, it seems like the best $40 million that the Cincinnati Bengals will probably ever spend for the rest of the foreseeable future. I mean, the guy is just phenomenal. I mean, he's so good. I love Justin Jefferson, but it feels like every time I get to watch Jamar Chase on primetime or just get to sit and watch a Bengals game in comparison to a Vikings game, it just feels like Jamar Chase just pops out at my screen and he just makes more plays. He looks more athletic and he just looks more talented than Justin Jefferson. Now, this ain't no slight against Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson is absolutely a dog. And if you were to, I would personally say I would prefer Jamar Chase. But you could say, what? Top two wide receivers, Jamar Chase is 1A, Justin Jefferson is 1B. They're both super talented. But Jamar Chase had his way, and T. Higgins did as well. T. Higgins had 96 yards receiving, and they were making big plays when they needed to be made. And this was an offense led by Joe Flacco. We're talking about a Joe Flacco who was just traded to the team roughly a week and a half ago. Last week, or it might have been a week ago, last Tuesday. And he had his first game on Sunday in Green Bay. I think they were in Green Bay, if I'm correctly. Yeah, I think they were in Green Bay. And then on a short week, he's playing the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are coming off a bye. This was inexcusable. If I'm not mistaken, yeah, Pittsburgh is coming off of a bye. If I stand corrected. Yeah, they're coming off a bye. And they go out off of a bye. And Cincinnati coming off of a short week, and they go out and do this defensively. This is going to be a problem. And I'll discuss this later on in the next segment. Let's go ahead and get to the offense. Now, I have to be totally honest when it comes to the Pittsburgh Steelers offense. I thought they were going to be bad because they don't have a primary receiver outside of DK Metcalf. Now, it can pose to be a problem in the future, but let me just give credit to where credit is due. Aaron Rodgers, he was spinning it last night. He was making plays. Like that last play that he made to Pat Freiermuth, that throw was on a rope. I mean, he was on the run. I mean, he just threw an absolute laser. And he set his team up to win, but his defense let him down. So I got to give credit where credit is due. They put up some points the last couple of games. And I don't know specifically, though, if this offense can survive against outside of bad defenses. Because when I look back and look at the Steelers' schedule, they haven't really played a phenomenal defense. And when they have played a pretty good defense, they've gave them fits with Minnesota, even though they cracked out a close win against Minnesota, and the Seattle Seahawks. And they've pretty much been playing cupcakes outside of them, too. And obviously, the Cincinnati Bengals defense is not that good. But I looked at the numbers, and they don't seem to have production outside of DK Metcalf in the passing game. You had DK Metcalf is roughly at 487 yards from the top of my head that I remember. And then the next guy to him is Pat Freiermuth, and he's not even at 200 yards. I think he's roughly at 180-ish range. That is a big drop-off of production from your first target and first receiver all the way to your second. It reminds me a lot of the Dallas Cowboys from last year. that is not really a recipe for success. And maybe this is the reason why, coming off the bye, that the offensive coordinator, Arthur Smith, probably is wanting to invest more in this 3 tight end style of offense that they are trying to run in Pittsburgh. But it seems to relatively work. They're winning games because of it. But me personally, I don't think this style of play can get you deep in the playoffs. That's just me. I just think when you get to the playoffs, you're going to play better defenses. And I don't like the idea of you having Giannu Smith, James Washington, and Pat Freiermuth alongside DK Metcalf being your receivers, primary receivers, going into a playoff game in the AFC. With the Bills, with the Chiefs, maybe even the Jaguars, the Chargers, all those other great teams. I just don't see the Steelers being able to make a deep run. Now, I think they could win a wild card game. I do not see this roster. I don't see this team, and I don't see this roster from the way they've played and what I've seen just given the eye test. I don't see them winning more than a first-round playoff game. And that's just me. But I can say they have been able to run the ball. And ultimately, I think their defense is going to be more of a problem than the offense because they are very old. And I mean old on defense. Darius Slay is on the latter part of his career. You could probably say the same for Jalen Ramsey, TJ Watt. I mean, he's not old, but, you know, he's the youngest of the group. And then you have Cam Hayward. He is definitely in the older part of his career, too. So your star players, I got 5 of them. So 4 out of the 5 that you're trying to rely on going deep into a season where they had an early bye, and that is absolutely something that is going to kill them in the future, having an early bye, which I am not a fan of getting early byes. I wish the NFL would rectify this in some way, form, or fashion. I'm just not a huge fan of it. But a team that's this old, getting this early of a bye, they are going to roughly have to play 13, 14 straight weeks of football leading into the playoffs. If they're wanting to go on a deep playoff run. We're going all the way to week 18. This is week 7. So they got as 12, 11 straight weeks. The 11th week should be the wild card round. I don't know if they're going to be able to last. But let's move on to the Cincinnati Bengals. Can the Cincinnati Bengals make a playoff push? It's questionable. It is absolutely questionable. Their next 5 games are tough. Like, really, really tough. Because when you look at their schedule, after the Jets, they got to go to Chicago. They got to play the Steelers again. You got New England, Baltimore. Lamar Jackson is going to be back. You have Josh Allen, and then you're going to have Lamar Jackson again. Now, historically, this, sorry, I'm sitting here thinking about Steelers, but we're talking about the Bengals here. The Bengals are going to have to trade one of them games with Baltimore, and they're going to have to at least their next couple of games. They can beat the Jets, but you're going to have to go in their next 5 games. You got to at least win 3 of them. Because there are reports, and they're confirming that Joe Burrow is on track and is going to be ready with that turf toe injury come December. And the goal is, can you make the playoffs? Are you going to be able to make a playoff push? If you're able to protect Joe Flacco, you're going to be able to score points. We saw this last night with Jamar Chase. Even last week in their loss to the Green Bay Packers, they were able to relatively score some points. Defensively, are they going to be able, just in case that day if the offense doesn't have as great of a game, are they going to be able to pick up some of the slack? That's a big question mark. That's a really tall ask for a defense who is not really that good. They did you see what they just did last night. They did the best they could not to give that game away last night. I'm worried it may be just a little too late for the Bengals to make it to the playoffs. You're talking about a team that started out 2-0. You lost to Minnesota. You got shellacked. Denver. You lost to those two teams. That's reasonable, but you're 2-2. But losing 4 in a row is bad. Their schedule in general is not the easiest schedule. But you're asking a team after they play Baltimore. The Baltimore game is roughly December the 14th. So their 5 games in a row will be Chicago, Pittsburgh, New England, Baltimore, and Buffalo. After that Buffalo game, that is December 7th. I don't know if Joe Burrow is going to be ready by then, but in those 5 games, I think their best chance of beating 2 out of the 3, 5, I think they could beat Pittsburgh again. They can beat Chicago. I don't think they can beat New England. And I don't think they can beat the Bills. But I think they can win 2 out of the 5. And even at 2 out of the 5, if you lose those. So they are at 3 and 4. So that puts you at 7 and 6. With the latter part of your schedule being very favorable, you get Baltimore, Miami, Arizona, and Cleveland. Those are winnable games. So if you can close out 9 and 8, 10 and 7, is that going to be good enough to get you in the playoffs in the AFC? I don't know. They are clawing at the teeth. Now, if the Bengals can surprise me and be able to come away with a couple more wins than what I'm suggesting here in their next 5-game slate after the Jets, because I think they're going to whip the Jets, then I think the Bengals can make the playoffs. But it is going to be a tall ask. But overall in this game, to get to the statistical side for the Bengals, I know I ain't rambling about their stats. Joe Flacco was pretty good. He was 31 for 47. He threw 3 touchdowns, had a quarterback rating of 75 and a passer rating of 108. They were able to run the ball with Chase Brown. They got 9.8 yards per carry on the ground. I think the Bengals offense are going to be good enough to win a game. It's just, is the defense, because they're going to play some good offenses. We know what Caleb Williams and the potential they can do on offense. We've seen how good Drake May in New England has been. I think you can beat the Steelers. But when Lamar comes back, you're going to have to face them, and then you got Buffalo. But if the Bengals play like they did last night, and if the defense can come up with a few more stops, I think the Bengals could possibly make the playoffs. But with the way I structured it out, that's roughly at 10 and 7, 9 and 8. Is that going to get you in the playoffs? I guess we're going to have to wait and see. All right, so now that we've talked about the action from last night, it was an absolutely great game. I mean, absolutely entertaining. I don't know if you guys saw the meme with Aaron Rodgers. It was absolutely hilarious about Aaron Rodgers getting mad there at the end of the game because his 300-pound offensive lineman tackled him after the huge touchdown throw that he made. And I thought it was just absolutely hilarious. That's just me personally. But I enjoyed the game last night, and it was a phenomenal watch. And I love watching the Bengals. I think they're a fun team to watch. The Steelers, they're a little boring. But it was a good football game. And so we got back-to-back good Thursday night games. Let's see if we can keep it going. I don't know who we got next week. I know they probably said it on the telecast, but hopefully we got a good game next week. But let's move on to our next topic. I wanted to discuss just the Eagles for a little bit here. I've been wanting to work on having to talk about some different talking points outside of just reactions. I wanted to talk about topics that I can come up with, things that are unique and that are not really pretty much reactionary type videos when it comes to football. Because I'm gonna need this type of formula leading to the off season. Because when the off season comes, I'm gonna have to be able to figure out things to talk about. But let's get a feeling, okay? The Eagles are looking to bounce back off of their back-to-back losses. One to the Denver Broncos, and the other on Thursday Night Football this past week against one of my favorite teams to watch so far, and this has come from a Cowboys fan, the New York Giants. We know the story of this year. We're just introducing the topic here. The story of this season has been the Eagles' offense and the inefficiencies that they have had, led under new offensive coordinator Kevin Patullo. Alongside that, you got a team who has not been able to run the football with Saquon Barkley. And then we know the whole fiasco with the Eagles wide receivers. There was a report that came out roughly 2 weekends ago talking about how Smitty, Devontae Smith, and A.J. Brown, respectively. It's been more about A.J. Brown because he's been making it more vocal, obviously. But both of them have been having issues with the offense, and each of them respectively and individually have their respective issues about their offense and their contribution to it. So, when we look at this week, seeing how you're 4-2, you're really only, a half game ahead in the division. And if we could get a quick look at Philly's schedule here, I think they're supposed to have one of the toughest schedules in the NFL. So after this week in Minnesota, you got to play the Giants again. You still got to play Green Bay. You got to play Detroit. You got to play Dallas. Got to play Chicago. You got to play the Chargers. Got to play the Commanders twice. You still got Buffalo. This schedule is brutal. Absolutely brutal. So when we get to this question of this segment, is this week a must-win for Philly? One can argue. Absolutely. It may not be in the sense, it may not be a must-win in the sense of saying, okay, we need this win in order to make the playoffs and win the division. I think if Philly lose this game, I think they can still make the playoffs and win the division. But it is a must-win in the sense, if you can't beat the Minnesota Vikings, led by Carson Wentz, and I'm not trashing on Carson Wentz, but if you can't beat this team with that offense that the Eagles have, you're in trouble. The offense has to get it together. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to give you these offensive rankings. And this is the Eagles' offensive rankings with a Super Bowl winning MVP quarterback, with an offensive player of the year, just got 2,000 yards, running back in Saquon Barkley, an all-pro future Hall of Fame wide receiver, a top 5 O-line in the league, a top 5 tight end in the league, you can argue, and a very complimentary number 2 receiver. This offense right now, in total offense in the league, is ranked 30th. In passing offense, they're ranked 30th. Rushing offense, with your good O-line supposedly, and your 2,000-yard running back, they're ranked 25th. Bottom 10 in the league. Scoring offense, I think they're ranked 15th. Red zone, they're number 1, courtesy of the tush push. Third down offense, they're 27th. And that is where the statistics end that I have at my disposal. Sorry, this is the unprofessional stats that I know. I don't have them Fox Sports stats. The advanced metrics that they have at their disposal. I don't have that. So I'm basing this off of the information that I have. That is their rankings so far this season. And they are just off of total offense. We're just going off of total offense. They are in the same area, in the same sphere, so to speak, same tier of offense as the Jets. The Jets have a better ranked offense right now than the Eagles do. The Browns, the Bengals, the Titans, the Dolphins, the Steelers, they are down there with those teams. So that is super uncalled for. And if you guys are, if you're keeping up with football news, we know that there was an article that just came out. Well, I don't even know if it was an article. It basically, there was a report that came out roughly 3 days ago. And this is from a player that's currently on the team in Philly, if I remember correctly. They are saying that this reminds them and gives them shades of 2023. If you guys were not aware, in the 2023 season for the Eagles, they're coming off of losing the Super Bowl. The year after they lose the Super Bowl, this is 2023, they go on to a phenomenal start to their season. And then shout out to Chris Broussard on First Things First. Then happened the supernatural funk. To where they were, 10-1? And then they just lost. They ended up losing and going 10-7, something like that. And then they got absolutely boat raced in their playoff game, in the wild card round. That's the type of season that they're talking about and saying the player was saying this season so far is giving shades of 2023. That is another reason why I think this game is a must win, because we have to get that idea and that stench out of the mind. If I am a Philadelphia Eagles player, if I'm anyone associated with the Philadelphia Eagles, and if I'm a Philadelphia Eagles fan. Because if we lose to the Vikings, granted they got a good defense. That Vikings defense under Brian Flores is for real. And it's one of the best units in the league. To see where their defensive rankings are, the Vikings are ranked 6th in total defense. So this is a good litmus test to see really where your offense may be at going into the future. And granted, you got to be able to be more efficient in the fact that can we play a complete 4 quarters of football? They have not been able to do that all season, and that stems from the very first game on Thursday Night Football against the Dallas Cowboys, to where offensively for the first half, or just in a half in general, because they've been sporadic with it all year. Sometimes it's the first half, sometimes it's the second half. They play phenomenal. But then they just have that one half to where they forgot how to play offense. They can't move the ball, and they end up scoring 0 points the whole half. And in some games, they've been able to squeak out with a win. When it was the Rams, when it was the Chiefs. But in other cases, like the Giants and the Broncos, they haven't. Yes, they're 4-2. There's an argument they could be 2-4, 3-3. And I brought it up. Yes, they were winning in spite of playing this bad, and it's finally being able to creep up with them. And now they're in the situation they're in now. I think if they lose this game, the idea of the supernatural funk being back in shades of 2023, it will become true. Now they're on the road, but there's no excuse. And now something that I think the Philadelphia Eagles should probably implement to kind of get their offense going, and that's probably a question we can pose right now. Jayden, what do you think the Eagles need to do offensively to kind of spark that offense? I have one suggestion. And I remember them doing it last year, because I remember them doing it against Dallas, and even before Saquon got there, and it absolutely killed us. We haven't seen the Philadelphia Eagles run any read option. That used to be their bread and butter. It was super successful for them. Even before Saquon got there. And even last year, I think they ran it a little bit, but they have not run it this year. Do you know how deadly a read option can be with Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley? That is a play that can keep defenses guessing, can make your offense more efficient, and more importantly, it'll help out the O-line. Because that O-line hasn't been playing that good. And it was on display in that game against Denver without Lane Johnson. It might be the worst unit it might be one of the worst O-lines, in the NFL without Lane Johnson. Because we saw how Denver, granted they have the best defensive line in football, but even last week with the Giants, they are able to get after the quarterback. Jalen Hurts has been under pressure. And even though not as much as so because Lane Johnson played last week, but a week before that with Denver, that O-line is a problem. Even right now, they're not having any type of good run fits. And they are a part of the reason why the rushing attack has not been that good. So these are a lot of questions for the Philadelphia Eagles that who knows if they have the answers to. And that's why going into this game, if you lose 3 straight games, the demeanor in that locker room is going to be absolutely abysmal. And we're talking about an Eagles team, and I'll tell you their schedule. They got to play the Giants again. They got to play Green Bay. They got to play Detroit. They got to play Dallas again. They got to play the Chargers. Got to play Chicago. Got to play Washington twice, and you still have to play Buffalo. It may, as my photo says right there, in free fall, Philadelphia Eagles, if they lose this game, could be in a continued free fall. But I digress. Let's move on into our very next topic. We're going to talk about my Dallas Cowboys here just for a little bit. I know you guys know I made a whole rant about it, I attended a game in Carolina. I'm a native North Carolinian. I'm a North Carolinian who does not cheer for the Carolina Panthers. I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan. And the question for today's segment, how well will Dallas play on Sunday? And I titled this segment, Loading the Ammunition, because I expect the offense to soar without a shadow of a doubt. Loading the ammunition because with the number 1 offense right now in the NFL, you're getting your best top 3 wide receiver in the league back in Cedarian Lamb. CD Lamb, that everybody knows him by. But I may be pronouncing his actual name right. I don't know if it's Cedarius or Cedarian. One of the two. But I know his real name. Well, y'all may know him as CD Lamb. He's going to be back. And we get our rookie first-round draft pick at right guard in Tyler Booker. He's going to be back this game as well. So that is something that is going to be positive going into Sunday's game against the Washington Commanders. And this is a defense that is not that good. Statistically, they're not that good. Now, last week on the defensive line, they were able to pop off and show their stuff a little bit. But we're talking about a Dallas Cowboys offense that has been the best in the NFL. And something that they didn't do well this past Sunday was run the ball. Well, they're coming off one of their worst rushing games against the Carolina Panthers. I think, what was it? Javonte Williams roughly averaged 2 yards a rush in that game? I want to be 100% certain when I give off that stat. I don't want to sit here and lie to you guys. Yeah, Javonte Williams pretty much averaged 2.2 yards carry. I stand corrected. But you're going up against a Commanders defense that gave up 7.7 yards per carry to DeAndre Swift with the Bears O-line. Not highly regarded as one of the best O-line group in the league. They're roughly middle of the pack. So if you're the Dallas Cowboys, I think we might have one of the best O-lines in the league. Young as well. And they were able to, give up that many yards to DeAndre Swift, Javonte Williams, and that Cowboys rushing attack should have an absolute field day. Defensively, of course, is my issue. Not surprising. And I have the stats here to back myself up. Straight depression. Commencing. Total defense. The Dallas Cowboys ranked dead last in the league. Passing defense. The Cowboys ranked dead last in the league. Rushing defense. Jerry, you wanted to stop the run, right? Yeah. It was off to a decent start, but not so much the last couple of games. And now overall, they're ranked 29th in the league. in rushing defense. Scoring defense, second last. The Ravens are worse, but not by much. Red zone defense, the Cowboys are shockingly pretty decent. They're middle of the pack at 21. Third down defense, I knew this one before I even saw it, but they're dead last. And that is their defensive statistics. They haven't been able to get much of a pass rush. And granted, I saw an interesting stat. There are these people who do the analytics, and they've been posting charts for defensive pass rush rate. And shockingly, Donovan Ezaraku this season so far basically has the same pressure rate and pressures in general as Myles Garrett. So right now, Donovan Ezaraku this season is in the same boat statistically and analytically as Donovan Ezaraku. That was absolutely mind-boggling to see. And even Micah Parsons, he wasn't too far from Micah Parsons. So there is a bright spot there, and I think Sam Fowler is pretty decent as well. But there's a difference between getting the pressure and actually getting home. The Dallas Cowboys are not getting home. You don't have a pass rush. You can't stop the run. Your DBs are absolutely abysmal. And we're going to talk about a DB who is out here in a second. We'll get to that in a minute. But the defense is going to be an issue. And this is another reason why this game is going to be a rough one on Sunday for both teams. Because we're talking about a Commanders team at home who just got embarrassed on Monday Night Football. Jayden Daniels doing those turnovers and causing them to lose the game. That offense is going to be ready to play and ready to make a statement in Jerry World. Even without Terry McLaurin on Monday night, Jayden Daniels was still efficient. He threw 3 touchdown passes. And he only had that one, which was very uncharacteristic, interception. And we're talking about a Dallas Cowboys defense that is the worst in the league. And now we just got word that Trayvon Diggs is not playing due to a concussion that he had at some point last night in his home. Don't know what happened. It didn't make sense when I saw it. But yeah, that's the news for today. So Trayvon Diggs isn't going to be available. So now your starting defensive backs are going to be Khalil Alam and Deron Bland and Reedy Stewart. Jayden Daniels is going to have an absolute field day. No matter his wide receivers, his receiving core on the field. Because we were able to see him do that just this past game and even against the Chargers the week before. I think Jayden Daniels is going to have a field day. And ultimately, I think this game is going to be measured by whose defense will step up. I think both offenses are going to be prolific. But the story of the game is whose defense is going to make that big stop. Who's going to get that big turnover. I'm not saying the Commanders' offense is just as good as Dallas's. Obviously, I think Dallas's is light years. I wouldn't say light years, but I think it's exponentially better than the Commanders. But it was on display on Sunday in Carolina that when Dallas wasn't able to make that score, the defense couldn't get that stop. And that is why I think, and I hope I'm wrong, I think it may be the Commanders' defense that may be the ones to be able to get that stop. I hope I'm wrong. I want to be wrong so bad, but it is absolutely tough to be wrong. That's why, and I'm not going to say who I'm picking to win the game. I may still pick Dallas because Dallas's offense may be able to rise over the hump. But if I am making a prediction, I trust more in the Commanders' defense to conjure up a stop led by Dan Quinn than a defense led by Matt Eberflus. That's where I'm at with that. I think it's going to be a good game, and I will save my pick for the next segment and who I have winning the game. Obviously, of course, I do not want to give that away. But I expect the offense to be good. And I hope, and this is something I'm interested to see as well. Supposedly, Matt Eberflus has made some changes. Wrong one there. Supposedly, Matt Eberflus has made some changes, so slight changes. That I think they're going to play more man coverage. So we'll see how that goes. And watching the film, a lot of people have been saying, been exhibiting that Matt Eberflus is calling the plays, and they're just not executing. So there's a lot of stuff that may be interesting with Dallas just to see if they can put together, finally, a decent defensive performance. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for our talking points for today's show. And now, the moment we've all been waiting for. Let's get to my picks of the week. Week 7, I've been absolutely abysmal so far this year. I take it on the chin. But we're going to go ahead and start it here. We have the Jacksonville Jaguars versus the Los Angeles Rams in London. Puka Nacua is out. Neutral site. It seems the Rams are favored 3.5. Y'all know who my man is, right? Y'all know I love me some Trevor Lawrence. And y'all should know that's who I'm going to pick. Give me the Jaguars plus 3.5. But I think I'm going to go with the Rams to win outright. I think the Rams are going to win, but I think the Jaguars are going to cover the spread. I think this is going to be a one touchdown game that's going to be close. Bears Saints, give me Chicago minus 4.5. Even though the Saints have been looking pretty good, Spencer Rattler has not been terrible, but I definitely do not believe in the Saints, and I think the Bears are absolutely ascending. Dolphins Browns. Cleveland is favored minus. Cleveland is favored minus 2.5 at home. This is like pick what team is worst. They're both the worst teams, but who's going to be worser on that day? Sorry, one of my drawstrings just popped off. That's absolutely weird. All right, we're good. This is a close one. I want to say I'm gonna pick the Dolphins. I'm gonna pick the dogs. I'm gonna go with the dogs here. I'm gonna pick the Dolphins plus 2.5. I don't like what I'm seeing offensively from Dillon Gabriel. Now Dillon Gabriel has a chance to be better because this defense is absolutely abysmal in Miami. But I just think Tua and them will be able to score. So I'm gonna pick the Dolphins. Titans Patriots. This is easy. Give me the Patriots minus 6.5. Raiders Chiefs. Chiefs is favored minus 12.5. That is a huge spread. I think the Chiefs are going to win, but give me the Raiders plus 12.5. Historically, the Raiders actually give the Chiefs fits at home in Arrowhead. Give me the Raiders plus 12.5, but I'm picking the Chiefs to win. Eagles Vikings. Philly is favored minus 2.5 on the road. I know this guy, this may shock you just a bit. You know what? Screw it. I'm not picking the Eagles. Give me the Vikings plus 2.5. And they're winning by a field goal. I don't like the Eagles. This may be, this ain't an analytical pick. This might be a little emotional. I don't like the Eagles at all. So give me the Vikings plus 2.5. Panthers Jets. Give me the Carolina minus 5.5. That's an easy pick. Giants Broncos. I love you, Jackson Dart. There's no way. Absolutely no way you're going to be able to deal with that rushing attack. I just don't think so. And I think Bo Nix, he laid a stinker last week. And, he's not going to lay 2 stinkers in a row. So that is my decision. And I'm sorry, Jackson Dart. It's going to be a funeral for you back there with that defensive line. Give me Denver minus 7.5. Colts Chargers. This is an absolutely phenomenal game at the 4 o'clock window. I'm actually jealous. Chargers is favored minus 1.5. I'm sorry, Jim Harbaugh. I'm sorry, Justin Herbert. I'm going to betray you. I'm picking Indianapolis. Indianapolis has a good defense. They can get to the quarterback relatively decently. I do not love that O-line. I don't know if Joe Alt is going to be back. Maybe if Joe Alt was back, I would change my pick. But I just do not trust that offensive line of the Chargers. And it's a close line. It's part of the reason why. Now, if this was the Chargers minus 3.5, maybe I would consider the Chargers. But here, I'm going with the Colts. plus 1.5, and I have them winning this game. There's Commanders, Cowboys. We'll save that to the end. Packers, Cardinals. Give me the Packers minus 6.5. I do not love the Cardinals at all. I've never been a fan of Kyler Murray, and I don't even know if Martin Harrison Jr. is going to be available. So that is a negative, negative, negative on top of a negative. Give me the Packers. Sunday Night Football, we have the Falcons and the 49ers. Give me the Falcons plus 2.5. San Francisco is actually favored to win this game. I don't see the 49ers winning this game at all. They just lost Fred Warner, their star linebacker, so they are absolutely they're on their last leg defensively. And Mac Jones coming off an absolutely abysmal performance. Mac Jones and Brock Purdy are both hurt, and they're just and the report came out this week. Mac Jones is pretty much playing because he is not as hurt as Brock Purdy. So it's that what they got going on there in San Francisco is unprecedented. So I have them winning. I have the Falcons winning, outright. And I love what I saw from the Falcons. Like this past week on Monday night. I'm not going to go in detail because go watch the video from my reaction to Monday night's game. Gosh darn it. We have another Monday night doubleheader, ladies and gentlemen. Like who is in charge of this? Please. Roger Goodell, stop it. I hate this. God, this is bad. And one of the games is at 10 o'clock. Good Lord. Buccaneers, Lions. Detroit favored minus 5.5. Now, we're talking about the Buccaneers, who is going to be out mostly their whole receiving core. I'm going to pick the Lions because of that. I don't think Bucky Irving is going to be available either. And they're on the road. I'm going to say Detroit minus 5.5 because of that. Now, we know that the Buccaneers are arguably the best team in the league so far this year. But I don't like that Baker Mayfield's whole receiving core is out. And I think the Lions are going to have a lot of adrenaline coming off that really embarrassing loss up in Kansas City. And they're going to be ready to play football. Texans, Seahawks, give me Seattle minus 3.5. I love how they've been playing, even without the good defense that the Texans have. I just absolutely love watching the Seattle Seahawks, and I love what they got going on. Sam Darnold, JSN, Jackson Smith, and Jigba, Ohio State guy, OH. But give me Seattle there. And now, the moment we've all been waiting for: my Dallas Cowboys going up against the Washington Commanders, and Dallas is only favored minus 1.5. I'm a give my analytical pick. If I wasn't a biased Cowboys fan, I would definitely probably bet the Commanders plus 1.5. That's my analytical pick. That's my media personality pick. That's, media analyst, broadcaster me. But now fan me says we're winning on Sunday. Screw that pick. This is me, just me talking. I don't care. We're winning. But now, if this is just media me, non-biased me, I'm picking the Commanders. Okay? Tell you what you will with that information. But that's how we're going to do it today. So those are my picks of the week, ladies and gentlemen. And now we have reached the end of today's show. Thank you for tuning in. I enjoyed it. This is going to be my last show of the week for sports. Pop culture fans, if you're watching, might do a little Hall of Heroes tomorrow. We'll see about that. Thank you so much for watching today's show. If you enjoyed, hit the like button, subscribe, check out my show on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And I hope you guys, I told you I'm going to stop saying guys so much. So I know I didn't keep up with it a lot today. I probably said it more than what I needed to. But I hope you have a great, I hope you have a great weekend. I said guys again. I hope you have a good weekend of watching football. There's a couple of great games, specifically tomorrow in college football. I think we got Tennessee, Alabama. Then we have Georgia, Ole Miss. 2 absolute bangers in the SEC. I'm gonna be trying to tune into those games. But I want you all to have a good weekend of football, and I hope you enjoy it. I love y'all so much, and I will see y'all on the next show next week. See y'all next week. Peace, love, and positivity always. See you.